Good morning to you all. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome you on behalf of all of us at Greater Manchester Poverty Action to the launch of the Tameside Poverty Truth Commission. Woohoo! We'd like to say a very special welcome this morning to anybody with us on live stream who's unable to be here but is watching online. And our warmest welcome this morning goes to our community commissioners, who are the team who've been meeting for months on end, being extraordinarily vulnerable and brilliant. And today we're so excited to be able to share their incredible, powerful, heart-wrenching stories with you all. Later on, we're going to introduce them all, so you'll get to see them and you'll get to know them. Just a couple of housekeeping points before we start. If there's a fire alarm today, there will be a fire. So we suggest that you leave the building, either through this door here, through the main door that you came in. If it's during lunchtime, there's doors all the way along this side of the building. And if we can gather in the car park, that would be great. Toilets are just on the right after the door here. If you do not want your photo taken today, there will be some photos going on social media. We are going to be using some photos as part of the Greater Manchester Poverty Action Twitter page and some of our future publications. So if you don't want your photo appearing in anything, please do let Stuart, our photographer, know, and Graham at the back there. Let them know. I know a couple of people have said already, but if you don't want to, that's absolutely fine. We have been advised for all people to wear face masks for the duration of the event. We've had advice from the council, so I'm very sorry if you don't want to, but unless you are exempt, we ask that you would all wear face masks. Does anybody need a face mask that doesn't have one? We do have a load of spare. Nope. Okay, if you do, just go to the back and they will give you one. We are going to have lunch a little bit later, around 12:15. I will give you further instructions on that. But if the weather's nice, we'll be queuing outside. So just make sure you bring your coats and stuff with you. I'll give you further information. We do have a tweet today. Is it on the board? No. It's hashtag Tameside Poverty Truth. We would love to get the conversation going on Twitter today. So please, please, please get your phones out. Tweet away. Feel free to take a picture of anyone's at the front. We would love to. We're going to be sharing some of your tweets after lunch. So please, please, if you're on Twitter, do get tweeting today. You can follow some of the tweets that we'll be putting up as well, and see what's happening. You can share with your followers everything that's happening on social media. So the foundation of everything that we do as a Poverty Truth Commission is deep listening. We want to really deeply listen to one another. And we're going to get you to practice deep listening now. I'm afraid it's an annoying icebreaker, you know, one of those get to know the people next to you things, but everyone's lovely in this room. So what we're going to ask you to do is just with the person next to you, is have a chat. There's going to be 3 questions. The first is your name. That's an easy one. You should know that one. Your second is your favourite song. I don't know if you heard, but on the way in there was some music playing, and that is our commissioner soundtrack. That's the favourite songs from all of our commissioners. So we'd like to know your favourite songs as well, and maybe a very brief reason as to why it's your favourite song. And the third question is what you love about Tameside. So if you speak to and also IKEA breakfast is banned. You can say nothing about IKEA there. So what you love about Tameside, and then I'm going to pick on a couple of willing volunteers, really willing volunteers that I know you will be, to introduce the person that you've been talking to. So you need to make sure that you listen well. So if you're up for the challenge, then I'm going to need volunteers. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes just to do that. choice. Fab, lovely. Thank you, brave and willing volunteers. We'll give you a free lunch. Okay, now I'm going to introduce my colleague Tom from Greater Manchester Poverty Action, who's going to share you a little bit about the wider work that we do.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Tom Skinner. I'm Chief Operating Officer at Greater Manchester Poverty Action. My role includes managing the Tameside Poverty Truth Commission, which has been a real privilege so far and will continue to be. A GMPA is a non-profit organisation that works to prevent and reduce poverty across Greater Manchester. Since being established 5 years ago, we've developed extensive knowledge about poverty in the city region and built a powerful network of allies and partners who share our values, our aims, and our vision. Our vision is of a Greater Manchester free from poverty, where all residents can realise their potential and access the benefits of living in a diverse and vibrant city region. We have 3 priority areas for Greater Manchester to drive down poverty. The first is boosting household incomes, promoting financial resilience, and that involves promoting the real living wage and supporting benefit take-up. Secondly, our work focuses on supporting the 10 councils in Greater Manchester to have strong strategic approaches in place to preventing and reducing poverty. And that means for us working with partners to ensure there's a plan for tackling poverty locally. Our third strategic priority is embedding the voices of people with lived experience of poverty and in conversations about policies and in decision-making processes across Greater Manchester. And that is why we're establishing the Tameside Poverty Truth Commission today. It fits with our approach of bringing people together from all sectors and all backgrounds to achieve change. By creating safe spaces for people to tell their stories and opportunities for decision makers to listen deeply, GMPA believes that we can deepen understanding of the emotional and the multidimensional, the personal and the social aspects of poverty, and lead to better informed decision making by leaders across the borough, across business, public sector and voluntary sectors. These decisions to be informed by lived experience of poverty. Poverty Truth Commissions are a great way of making that happen. So we've supported commissions to start up in Salford, Manchester, Oldham and Trafford, and they've all been led by different partner organisations. So with so much activity in other places, we were determined to ensure this commission was set up in Tameside, and so we took it on for the first time as a GMPA programme. And thanks to great work by the team, great support from many in the borough, and many amazing people coming forward to be commissioners, some of whom you're going to meet in a few minutes. We're delighted to be making this a reality today. So we're going to put on a video now that will tell you a little bit more about Poverty Truth Commission, what it is, and how it works.
Poverty Truth Commission starts with an understanding that lasting social change only happens when those who experience a struggle participate in generating change. This principle has been seen throughout history, from civil rights to suffragettes, from LGBTQ+ issues to the disability movement. And it's the principle that Poverty Truth Commissions are founded on. Nothing about us, without us, is for us. Poverty Truth Commissions start with people who know what it means to struggle against poverty. But they are not alone. There is a proverb that says, if you want to go far, go together. So a commission seeks to build relationships between people struggling against poverty and people in decision-making positions in civic and business institutions. Over time and together, they learn about the complexities of poverty and explore possible solutions. So what does a commission look like? A Poverty Truth Commission begins by bringing together a group of experts through experience. People who have faced the struggle against poverty in their own lives. Usually around 12 to 15 people. This group spend time together, sharing stories, listening to one another, and building relationships. Doing this together grows confidence and builds solidarity. This phase culminates in a public event where these community commissioners collectively present their stories. This public event is attended by the civic and business commissioners, who are senior leaders from across society who have agreed to take part. Following the event, this whole group of 25 to 30 people form the full commission. A Poverty Truth Commission is not about the civic and business leaders or community commissioners fixing issues on their own. Instead, it is about building relationships of trust so that difficult conversations might happen. Learning to listen to one another is crucial. Listening beyond words to connect first and foremost as human beings. Together, commissioners identify issues and begin to experiment with possible solutions. It might be about service design, policy change, awareness raising, building wider relationships, or many other areas in which the group together have the ability to act. The changes may appear small, but the learning and impacts are significant. Commissioners take new perspectives into their communities, organisations, and everyday lives. This creates the longer-term impacts of the Commission. The Poverty Truth Commission gets beyond the stereotypes of suits and scroungers. It's no longer them and us, just a bigger us. A bigger us that when it comes to tackling poverty can say together, nothing about us, without us, is for us. To find out more about Poverty Truth Commissions, hear stories and experiences from different commissions, or to discover what is involved in running a commission, visit the Poverty Truth Network at povertytruthnetwork.org.
Great. I do hope that was it's a brilliantly clear video, and thanks to the Poverty Truth Network for producing that, a great explanation of what it is we're doing here today. So in just a moment, I'm going to begin to introduce our community commissioners. A few of them here today are going to be sharing their stories. We've left some tissues around. It's a really, really emotional thing to do, and what we're very aware is that we don't want this to become trauma tourism. We don't want to just get them to stand at the front, sharing the depths of their souls, of the hardest things they've ever been through, just to sit and watch. The team are doing this because we all collectively want to amplify the voices of the lived experience of poverty. They have expertise. They are the experts in what it is to live in poverty. And we are so grateful to you all for your willingness to be a part of this, for your determination, your hard work. You have never met a group of more committed people to something, and they are an absolute credit to themselves, to their families, and it is a joy to have been able to work alongside them. I just want to introduce, we're going to introduce all of them. I just want to introduce you, my colleagues, Beatrice, if you just stand up and give us a wave. Many of you will know Beatrice, and Carol, who's really recently joined our team. And me, Hannah, I am the relentless emailer, I'm afraid. But we are all just so utterly honoured. It is the best job in the world to help facilitate the Tameside Poverty Truth Commission. If you have any questions, we're the ones in the T-shirts. Please do come and talk to us. I'm going to first introduce the wonderful Fran, who is terrified of being first, but we're picking on her. We're going to show a short video before Fran gets up, but you'll see her daughter, Michaela, in the video. I have two kids of my own, Michaela is probably the best kid I've ever met. She is the most delightful child. She's incredible. Fran is wonderfully creative. If you need anything drawing, any kind of, you know the people that have to get the pen when you go to a conference and they're the ones who have to draw all the answers that everyone gives. Fran's your woman. She's funny and she is fearless. She is. And she's quite gobby as well, actually. She's here heckling. But we're going to watch Fran's introduction video and then we're going to hear from Fran herself.
There goes my heart beating.
Hi, I'm Fran. I live in Ashton-under-Lyne. I became aware of the Tameside Poverty Truth Commission because my partner was in the Poverty Truth Commission for Manchester. I became a commissioner for Tameside Poverty Truth because I know firsthand what it is like to live in poverty, and I want to use my voice to make a positive change in our community. Poverty has been with me for the most of the 28 years of my life. After my mum walked out of the family home, my dad brought me up as a single parent and things became tough. We had to move from my hometown of Oldham to Liverpool to be nearer to relatives, so my dad knew I would be safe and looked after if anything was to happen to him. Things got better for a while until my dad remarried and he started drinking on a regular basis. My dad's second marriage broke down and me and my dad had to move into a family hostel. We eventually found a home and my dad started drinking again. Bills wouldn't get paid. Eventually we moved from Liverpool to Ashton-under-Lyne. I fell out big time with my dad and moved into a hostel. Slowly my life began to get better and I became a living carer for a few years, and that's how I met my daughter's dad. Things didn't work out between us and sadly the person I was caring for, which was my daughter's granddad, passed away. Suddenly I was homeless at 4 months pregnant. This was a really tough time in my life. I didn't know how I was going to manage or how I would look after myself and the bundle of joy I was carrying. Thankfully, a neighbour let me have their spare room for a short while. I slept on a mattress on the floor until my daughter was born in October 2015. I was homeless when I gave birth to her. Life was really tough for us. The home I was in was unsuitable for a newborn, and I ended up having to move out again into another family friend's house, where I slept in the living room on their couch with my daughter in a carry cot next to me for 6 months. It was the worst situation you can imagine. Eventually, I was moved into temporary supported accommodation run by a homeless charity and was there for a couple of months before I was offered a house by a local housing association. During this time, I would often dream about having a home for my daughter, and I would imagine what my future would look like in our new house, as most people do. I remember being offered a house and being told that I had to accept it, even though I hadn't seen it. If I dared refuse it, I would be making myself intentionally homeless. This made me feel stressed, worried and anxious that I wouldn't be able to have a home. If I didn't accept what I was given, I felt I had no choice in where I would end up raising my daughter. When most people are looking for a place to live, they get to decide what that place will look like, how many bedrooms they want, whether or not it will have a garden or whether it is a flat or house. That choice is a luxury for people in desperate situations. In my case, I didn't even get to view the house I was being offered. I didn't know what it would look like on the inside or whether it would need any work when I moved in. I couldn't plan anything, I just had to accept what I was given. Thankfully, the house was okay, apart from the fact that it needed decorating. It had no paint and bits of wallpaper were missing, so it was up to me to do the house up myself, which wasn't easy with a young child to look after. It took me nearly 4 years to finally manage to decorate the house, which my partner helped with after seeing the state of it. But to have a place for myself that I could call home for me and my daughter was indescribable. I am thankful to be able to have a decent place to live, which I don't take for granted after not having a home for so long. Since moving into the house, a lot of things have changed, some for the better, some for the worse. Things are still tough at times raising my daughter. Being on universal credit means that I am regularly short of money. This is made even worse by the loss of the universal credit uplift. Not many families can afford to lose £80 a month, and yet so many of us families with young children are expected to carry on without this vital lifeline. However, no matter how tough it gets, I make sure that my daughter is never without the essentials and the basics, even if it means I go without. I always make sure she is provided for, happy and safe. Christmases and birthdays are a nightmare. That is why I'm so thankful for places like the 4C Community Centre and especially Jodie at the Eclectic Avenue Cafe, who use part of their profit to provide birthday parties for children and families who can't afford them. This year, my daughter was able to have a beautiful party all taken care of by Jodie. I am so grateful to her and her team for giving my daughter, in her own words, the best birthday party ever. It was also her very first birthday party. Life as a mum experiencing poverty means that people make judgments about the kind of mum that you are and the kind of children you are raising. I am proud of my daughter. She is kind, intelligent and caring, and we as mums are resilient, capable and strong. Experiencing poverty should never mean that we are written off, belittled or underestimated. I am telling my story today in the hope that no other mum struggling with homelessness would have to go through the mental anguish of finding a home. The process should be easier to navigate than it is, and we should be treated with more humanity than we are given at the moment. I would personally like to thank Beatrice, Hannah, Lizzie and our group for welcoming me in and becoming such great friends. I would also like to thank my partner Tom for always being there for me and my daughter. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Fran. We are so proud of you, Fran. What an incredible testimony of a life of hardship and a woman so courageous who has overcome every battle she's faced and is here today because she wants to make a difference. Okay, I'd like to welcome Ed to come and join me. Ed, honestly, Ed, oh, he's so great. He's so great, aren't you, Ed? So Ed is like a Mary Poppins bag, honestly. Every time we meet together, it's like a running joke. He just comes out with, I've written a book, and I've been on this TV show, and I've made this documentary, and I've met the Prime Minister, and my best friend's Michelle Obama, and he's amazing. He's just got story after story after story, and you are just absolutely fabulous. He's so wise, he's so courageous, he's hilariously funny. And it is my delight to let you share his story now. Do you want me to stay with you? Do you want me to stay?
Sorry? No.
Yes, stay there.
Yeah, thank you very much, everybody. There's a lot of anticipatory anxiety going on at the moment, to say the least. And I don't like reading from a script sort of thing, but I'm going to have to do it anyway. This is a difficult story for me to tell, so please bear with me. Just to give you a little bit of information about myself, I'm a retired social worker and I live in Droylsden. I've had rather a treacherous life, to say the least. There's a lot of interesting things that I have done, which I won't go on about today in too much detail. But in the 70s, I did make a BBC documentary, but the real passion for me was being able to work with wildlife and young people. And yeah, that played a big role, and it certainly did as a child when I was living in abject poverty. But as far as poverty is concerned, it has severely impacted on my life, both as a child and at different stages in my adult life. I have named my real-life story, One Burden Too Many, and I would like to dedicate this to my late mother, who ultimately lost her own personal fight against poverty at the age of 57. When I look back across my life over the past 66 years, I just can't believe where those years have gone. My memory recall isn't what it used to be, but this said, there are some things that simply don't go away, and instead remain as real as a slap in the face. The major difference today is the fact that thanks to a brilliant and dedicated therapist, I can now manage my feelings a whole lot better. I was 60 years old when I went back into therapy, and even though there has been a couple of relapses since then, I can honestly say that my life today feels a great deal more worthwhile and purposeful. And my involvement with the Tameside Poverty Truth Commission has played a huge part in this. As a former social worker, I think the Poverty Truth Commission is one of the most authentic and radical platforms I've ever come across, and I really do mean that. As a child, I knew cold and hunger beyond the comprehension of some people, and I experienced destitution and homelessness on a regular basis. Both my parents had serious drink problems, and violence and abusive behaviour from my father was commonplace. Thankfully, I escaped this nightmare on my 17th birthday, following a fight with my father, who threw myself and my few belongings out on the street. This proved to be the best thing he ever did, and I set out in the world to try and make a new life for myself. For the first 12 months, I lived in a battered old caravan situated in the beautiful open countryside of the Mosley and Saddleworth border. It was probably the happiest 12 months of my life, and few people understood how I could be so content with my rather humble existence. But then they didn't know anything about the hell I'd been living in for the past 17 years of my life. During this time, I did find myself wondering how my mother was coping, since she had fled the family home altogether by this time. I'm just going to have a drink of water because my mouth has gone really dry. Sorry about that, but needs must. All right. Where we'll be up to, yeah. Nobody knew of my mother's whereabouts, including me. I think she'd had enough of my father's violent attacks on her and was even in fear of her life. I loved my mother dearly, and despite her drink problems, she was as loving and caring as she could be under these dreadful circumstances. On a couple of occasions, my mother and my siblings fled from my father, But invariably, we soon ran out of money, and my mother really struggled to put food on the table. There just was never enough money to house us and feed us all, even though she really tried hard to stay free of the booze. She was completely at her wit's end, and her weight plummeted, as did her mental capacity to keep going. To be honest, I think my mother loathed herself because she was unable to provide for us in the way she would have liked. Things reached a critical stage when my mother tried to kill herself when I was aged no more than 10 years old. We were residing in a bedsit in the slums of Manchester when my mother tried to gas herself by placing her head in an old gas oven and inhaling the fumes. The whole house was filled by the deadly fumes, and I had to break down the door to get to her. She was lying unconscious, slumped with her head in the gas oven. I somehow managed to drag her to safety, but the rest of the story still remains a mystery, since I must have been so traumatized that I cannot recall what happened next. Thankfully, she survived this shocking ordeal. The last time I saw my mum alive was back in 1982, when she was living on the streets of Manchester. The rest is too long a story to share right now, but I do hope I've given you a brief insight into my complex and challenging journey. The combination of poverty and escalating mental health issues almost succeeded in driving me onto the streets. But fortunately, with the right kind of support and my own sheer determination, I have somehow managed to survive and be here today to share my story with you. Just hold on 1 second. I'll get the next page. Not unlike mental illness, poverty can happen to any one of us, and the COVID-19 pandemic has profoundly illustrated this in a way we could never have imagined. It is also no coincidence that people living in poverty and who live in some of the poorest neighbourhoods in the country are twice as likely to die of COVID-19. I think the hardship and toil of poverty has massive implications for our physical and mental health, and yet we continue to undermine just how life-diminishing poverty can be. One thing I do know, beyond question, is that poverty can cost some people their lives, and no one will ever convince me that poverty is simply one of the facts of life which we must learn to accept. If you take away anything at all from today's event, I hope it is a new awareness of the disturbing realities of poverty and the growing number of lives lost through this unacceptable social scandal. For many people like myself who suffer from complex mental health issues, poverty can seriously jeopardize our chances of a lasting recovery. As was very much the case with my own mother, poverty can be that one dark cloud that simply doesn't go away, and if left unaddressed, can quite quickly become the living nightmare that might well prove to be that one burden too many. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Thank you, Ed. You can just see, can't you, what a treasure Ed is. Thank you for sharing. Okay, in just a moment, I'm going to introduce Helen to you. And Helen is, I mean, you know, like everyone that gets up, I'm like, oh, they're definitely my favourite. She's just a phenomenal woman who is an incredible mother and, again, an overcomer. And she is wonderfully creative, green-fingered, loves gardening. I have said on many an occasion, feel free to come and do my garden, but she's not taken me up on it yet. And she is courageous with such a heart for justice. Before she comes up, we're going to watch a little introductory video, and then I'm going to welcome Helen.
Poverty can happen to anyone. The link between poverty and mental health is virtually indistinguishable. My mental health seriously affects my daily life and means I cannot do everyday tasks you may take for granted. It also affects my ability to handle mental pressure, my decision-making, and household skills like budgeting. Friendships, relationships, and employment are also extremely difficult to sustain, and I am thus dependent on benefits. I wouldn't say I've lived my life, just existed. I grew up in a family that did our best to hide poverty. My mum worked 2 jobs to feed and clothe us. But my father's alcoholism was too much, and they divorced when I was 11. I remember hiding food packets bought from Netto in shame so that friends would not see where we shopped. My inferiority complex started at about this time. Not being able to afford the things I wanted, I occasionally shoplifted. Knowing that my friends didn't live like this made me feel not good enough. Home became a negative environment, ruled by my new stepdad, who was verbally and emotionally abusive. We walked on eggshells in fear of his temper. By the time I was 15, school had recommended counselling, but the counsellor was already working with my stepdad, and so withdrew treatment for conflict of interest. I didn't know where else to turn, and another counsellor was never assigned. Despite being bullied and the death of my father, I got good grades and went on to university to study law. I met my partner and unexpectedly became pregnant during my final year. I completed my degree and went on to do a legal practice course. 2 years and another pregnancy later, I began working at a solicitor's. Sadly, my mental health deteriorated fast. I was hallucinating and unable to regulate my emotions, which forced me into taking time off work. I was then diagnosed with borderline personality disorder and put on medication, but never returned to work. My dream of being a solicitor never realised. The years were a struggle. My relationship eventually fell apart and I became a single parent. Since my diagnosis 20 years ago, I have had no real review. It has been years since I was assessed for this medication that I'm still taking that doesn't even feel like it helps. All the while, I am unable to work. I've cost the NHS a lot of money in different therapies, yet I feel like all of this, my life, could have been so different had I received the right help from the very beginning. The one therapy I haven't had is the one that, according to all research, is the best type of treatment for someone with borderline personality disorder, the criteria for which is a long-standing mental illness. It's been nearly 2 decades. I feel massively let down by the NHS. I feel they failed me at age 15 and then repeatedly as an adult, time and time being told I don't meet the criteria. I don't meet the criteria for primary care. I'm too ill. I don't fit the criteria for secondary care. I'm not ill enough. My postcode isn't right. There is no qualified therapist in this area. It is just not acceptable. Funds for mental health services have been consistently cut, resources slashed, and all the while, more and more of us are ending up in crisis, mental or financial. It's been almost a year since I last tried to end my life. A relationship breakdown and exhaustion from trying to access help pushed me into taking a near-fatal overdose. I woke up in hospital to the words, "That was close." I was discharged and had just one visit from the community mental health team the next day, but no care plan was put in place and no follow-up was ever given. It was left up to me to begin the referral process all over again. It's been nearly a year and I'm yet to be seen by anyone from mental health services. I feel that I would have not been in such a desperate place had Tameside provided the recommended support and treatment when needed. No one chooses poverty. It is not a choice. It is so shocking that the help is out there, but only if you have the money to afford it. So I'd like to end with a plea to those with that money, to those with that power. We aren't just problems to be solved, or files in the system. At the end of every decision you make, there is a human being just like you. So please help us. Help us with your resources. Help us to bring change to Tameside, because nothing about us without us is for us.
Thank you, Helen. We are so thankful that you're here with us. We're so thankful that you're a part of our Poverty Truth Commission family. And we are so thankful that you're using your incredibly difficult past to make a difference in the future. Our next commissioner that we're going to hear from isn't going to stand here today. We've pre-recorded his video. He is here, the wonderful Anthony. I'm not going to make him stand up and wave at everyone. I don't think he'd ever forgive me. But Anthony has got a smile that lights up the room. He is a massive death metal fan and went to, what was the, it was a festival that he went to. I think there were 2 Portaloos for 10,000 people or something. So, you know, not my vibe, but Anthony loved it. And he is incredibly resilient. He's so committed. He's been at every single meeting and really committed to seeing change. And it's a pleasure to have him as part of our commission. We're going to watch his video now.
Hello, my name is Anthony. I'm 41 years old, live in Ardenshire. I'm a father of a now 18-year-old daughter called Catherine. I spend the weekends usually with my daughter and we do a lot of stuff together and go to a couple of gigs every now and stuff when we can afford. A typical week in my life is a bit empty, if I'm honest. There isn't much to do when you struggle with the health issues. I've been struggling with the poverty for many years, the cause of which is rooted in the health issues due to the tuberculosis and epilepsy. When I was 7, I was diagnosed with a genetic benign brain tumour that kick-started a series of unfortunate events that led me to where I am today. When I was growing up, there was little support available, like to someone like me in schools, the extra education stuff. When I was severe epilepsy, I was still allowed to go to the mainstream school. It was very tough and there was a lot of bullying and it was very misunderstood. The stigma attached to being different was so deep and terrifying that I spent a lot of my childhood hiding. This affected education so much that I fell behind in school. I left school with no qualifications, applied for the disability living allowance and was accepted. When the government changed this benefit to PIP, I was taken off that for about 2 years. I was struggling with this severe epilepsy, anxiety, on how to expect to get a job and provide for myself as an adult. Not having any money, not being able to get a job and pay the bills left me in deep financial crisis, and it stressed me a very lot, which caused even more health issues and seizures breaking through. And also it was followed by suicidal tendencies after a bit. In order to re-qualify for the PIP, I had to attend so many interviews and so many appointments with so many different people, each more degrading than the last. One of the questions on the applications is, did you attend a mainstream school? Which I did, but not by choice. When you have to tell your story over and over again with no change to prove your worth, it's traumatising and dehumanising. How many times do I have to tell you?
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you for your courage. Thank you for sharing honestly your story, and our hope is today that it won't be one more re-traumatising storytelling without change, but that this will be a catalyst for the change that Anthony deserves to see. I'm now going to introduce Christopher, and Christopher is an absolute delight. He is a true gentleman. If you needed someone to give you their last Rolo, then Christopher might be your guy. He loves a pudding, we've got a mutual sweet tooth, haven't we, Christopher? He is sensitive and compassionate. He's a wonderful listener, and he's also got a bit of a risky sense of humour. So Christopher, do you come and share with us?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Christopher. I'm 62 years old. Poverty has affected me in the last 10 years. When I was made redundant 10 years ago, I felt you could just walk into a job, everything would be fine, but it wasn't. I suddenly had vast illness. Most of it, my eyesight was really deteriorating, and it got to a level where I couldn't drive cars, stacker trucks, anything. So that limited to me my job prospects. When the company did close down, I was offered a pension, which I thought at the right time to take. It turned out to be one of the biggest disasters ever made. Basically, I couldn't apply for government help, i.e. job seekers, everything else, and that has eventually put me into a poverty situation. Fortunately, I've now been 62 and going around places. I've met so many fantastic people. Organisations like New Life, Infinity, who really are there to help a lot of people. And hopefully they're in the room, and hopefully if you ever need them, I'll be very happy to take you to the people there. They help you in lots of ways. Obviously I have to claim for food banks, food parcels. These are things I never ever thought I would ever claim. As you get older, the doors seem to be closing. You do not get the help. Everything seems, you don't get the one-to-one anymore. As one door closes, the other one opens and another one closes. And I found it as I've got older, it has got very, very harder. I hope today, what you've listened to all the stories of all the people who've told some incredible adventures where they've been on, not because they wanted to go on these adventures, but I do hope things will get better. And with your help, I do believe we will. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Christopher. The shocking reality that you can work your whole life and be made redundant close to retirement and end up not having enough money to eat and to pay your mortgage and to pay your bills, and just desperately, desperately sad. And what an incredible thing you are to join this and try and make a difference for other people. The next commissioner I'm going to introduce, our penultimate commissioner today, is Karen. And Karen, Karen is the absolute mum of the group. She has 4 kids of her own. and she has adopted all of us. If you need a hug, Karen's your woman. She can tell people are feeling a bit wobbly and a bit fragile. She's straight in there with an encouraging word, and she is just the most delightful woman. She has no idea what utter gold she is. And although we tell her frequently, we still don't think it's probably sunk in yet. So if you see her today and you want to tell her as well, then do. I met one of her daughters a few weeks ago and one today, and they are a credit to Karen, and it is a delight to welcome her here now.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm off already. My story today has been massively impacted by my childhood. Unfortunately, not having the right start has negatively affected me in many ways. In my adult life, there have been so many different things that have pushed me deeper and deeper into poverty. This morning, I want to share my story in the hope that it will help us all have more compassion towards people living in poverty. I want us to commit together to responding justly to all who are facing unacceptable hardship. I had an horrific childhood. My mum was amazing, but was with a man who was abusive to us all, both mentally and physically. It's too long a story to tell today, but his actions have caused unimaginable effects on mine and my brother's lives. I'm extremely close to my elder brother. I was devastated when in our mid-teens he was diagnosed with schizophrenia, and truly believe this was as a result of the trauma of our childhood. For me, the trauma showed up in a variety of ways, including finding myself in bad relationships with abusive men from an early age who mistreated me in similar ways. Sadly, this meant that I ended up in women's refuges a couple of times in my life, which resulted in having to move house a lot. At the age of 17, I became pregnant with my eldest daughter, Cody. After my own horrific childhood, I was determined to give her the absolute best life I could. I was so happy I was pregnant. It was a turning point in my life. I suddenly had purpose. This positivity was short-lived when I was kicked out of our family home because of my pregnancy, with no other family member willing to care for my brother, who was in the early stages of his mental health problems. He moved in with me and became my responsibility. I love and adore my brother, but his illness meant that this time was incredibly tough. There were many frightening incidents when I was alone and completely out of my depth. I managed to get a council house and my brother moved in there too. I had a tiny baby, no carpets and no heating. My brother suffered with insomnia. And one time I'd been awake for 4 nights. I was exhausted and I tried everything to help him to sleep. I ran him a bath, but later found him in the bath, fully dressed. It's hard to communicate the enormity and loneliness of this period of my life. I was hidden and didn't have a voice. In all the stress and chaos, I wouldn't open the post. I missed a housing benefit letter and we ended up losing our home. This began a chapter in my life of insecurity, which included me having to move several times for several years. During this time, I would experience loneliness, domestic abuse, the death of my mother, eviction and homelessness, all while raising 4 children on my own. It is safe to say that I was living in chaos for the majority of my kids' early lives, which breaks my heart to this day. When my mum passed away, I'd been living in Blackburn for a few years. I never really settled there, and now more than ever I wanted to move back to Manchester.
I managed to find a house and sign the tenancy agreement. I had handed my notice in at the place I was living in Blackburn, and a few days later found out I'd been wrongly advised of the benefit I was entitled to, and my rent was actually going to be more expensive than I'd expected. I thought my kids and I were going to be homeless. I had to apply for a discretionary housing allowance to afford the rent. However, I needed to apply for this every 3 months. The housing allowance was then stopped, but my landlord kindly reduced the rent eventually, meaning I could stay living in the house. After I'd lived there for 9 years, the landlord then decided to sell the house and gave me notice. Neither he nor I had realised that I should have had 2 months' notice, also known as a Section 21. We were once again plunged into chaos. The process of finding a new home was complex and difficult, to say the least. There ended up being so many letters and so much information, I was completely overwhelmed and found myself potentially homeless once again. I was evicted and ended up in a hostel with my teenage children who needed stability and warm meals after school. Instead, we had no access to ovens and had to share 2 microwaves between numerous families. It wasn't the best place. We even had to move rooms due to bed bugs. The kids were having panic attacks from being homeless and from the embarrassment about our situation. After what felt like forever, we were finally offered a house in Tameside. The house I was offered was in absolute disrepair. The walls were mouldy and damp and covered in holes. Plug sockets were hanging off the walls. There was no gas, no electric, no TV aerial, no furniture, and no carpets. On 4 different occasions, we were told we could move in. We all packed up only to find out that it still wasn't ready. Eventually, after 6 weeks of waiting for the work to be completed, I was told by the Housing Association to basically suck it up and move in. All the problems were still there. No gas, no electric. And part of the downstairs had flooded. We had no carpets, no curtains, and hardly any furniture. There was live wire dangling from the ceiling and some of the windows wouldn't close. It was November. 4 of us had to sleep in 1 bedroom because the other rooms weren't suitable. I was told if I refused to move in, then I would be making myself intentionally homeless and that I would not be given another offer. I was advised to move in and then appeal. I did appeal. They advised me they needed evidence, which I sent. An inspector then came to the house. He said he was embarrassed because it was so bad and agreed to all the repairs I had stated. He logged everything that needed to be sorted on an iPad. A few weeks later, I contacted the Housing Association because none of the work had been completed. Eventually, I discovered the inspector had since retired and there was no record of my case or all the repairs needed. In the end, I had to do the majority of work myself. I'd never done serious DIY, and so would have to get the bus or walk to the shop, try and find the equipment that I needed and bring it home. I spent a fortune on tools, some of which turned out to be the wrong ones. Because we had no carpet and just a concrete floor, it was impossible to clean properly, and the dust seeped and spread throughout the house. We were coughing and blowing black dust out of our noses. While all this was happening, I had no way to relax. The house was in chaos, and there was no TV aerial and no internet. I had no friends to call on because I had been isolated due to my abusive ex-partner. I would spend all day fixing the house, and then in the evening have absolutely nothing to do. When I moved into this house, I was also sent a letter to say I owed money for unpaid council tax. After months of going backwards and forwards to dispute the debt, I'm so thirsty. Sorry, my mouth's sticking together. Every time. Another bit. Without fail. Sorry. Oh gosh, where am I up to? When I moved into this house, I was also sent a letter to say I owed money for unpaid council tax. After months of going backwards and forwards to dispute the debt, I eventually spoke to somebody who decided to fully investigate the case. It turned out a system error had allocated me a debt that I did not owe, which I had been saying all along, but no one had believed me. After a year of stress and phone calls and accusations, I received no apology, no compensation, and no acknowledgement of the distress that the whole situation had caused me. Sadly, what I'm describing is a regular reality for people like me who are constantly under pressure from having to prove that what we are saying is true, even to services designed to help us. Poverty leaves us in impossible situations all the time, making it harder to break free from the restrictions placed upon us by our situation. We need more compassionate systems and better listening when people in poverty cry out for help. Our home should be our safest place. Adequate housing for people already in hardship should be a minimum. Our economy traps us in an indefinite loop of relying on benefits or in low-paid, unstable jobs. Families are already struggling to put food on the table. Rising cost of living and daily pressures mean that we have no spare cash to spend on renovating broken houses. It should not be left to us to fix broken houses so that we can simply have a safe home. I moved into this house where I am now in November 2019. After months of living in cold and dust and working day and night to try to make a better home for ourselves, the pandemic hit. It is no secret that the last 18 months of the pandemic has affected people already living in poverty the most because of existing inequalities. We are more likely to have existing conditions, weakened immune systems, and be more exposed to the virus. For me, the pandemic was one of the worst experiences of my life. Ending up back in isolation when struggling to make ends meet severely affected my mental health and re-traumatised me. We might all be in the same storm, but we're not in the same boat. We need new systems, which mean that everyone caught in this storm has a lifeline within reach, one that can pull us out of danger when we need it the most. And that needs to cover all areas of public services, from adequate housing to mental health services. I hope we can begin to question together what can be done to make sure the systems we have in place are working for the people that need them the most. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my story. Thank you, Beatrice and Anna, for all your support and patience. And thank you to my children, who, in spite of everything, have grown up into amazing, strong and compassionate young adults. I'm so proud of you, and I love you both.
Thank you, Karen. Just phenomenal, and the greatest privilege for Beatrice and Carol and myself to have journeyed the last few months with you all. And we truly have become a family, and we are so grateful to you all for your hard work, your dedication and your vulnerability. We're going to have a short skit now to show the experience of one of our commissioners, and then we're going to have one more video, and then we're going to break for lunch. But just give us a minute while we rearrange the stage.
sure if I've come to the right place. I was asked to apply for an overlap on my rent payment. I couldn't move into the tenancy because there was no gas or electric. So I had to stay in the homeless shelter until it was switched on. But after living at the address for like 2 weeks, I've already received an eviction notice and was told to apply for an overlap.
Sorry, we don't deal with that. You need to go to be at the housing appointment where you set up your tenancy.
But you gave me the tenancy.
Yes, but we are the housing options. You would have to sort it, your this homeless accommodation. You need to speak to them.
Okay, no worries. I'll go there. Thank you. Hi there. I'm here to apply for an overlap on my rent.
Sorry, we don't deal with that. You need to go to the housing benefit office.
Oh, you're joking me. I was told to come here. It's okay.
No, sorry, I'm sorry about this.
Should have rehearsed this. Last minute.
Do you want to take two? Right. I've got to be the indifferent person here.
Start again, Callum, you go.
Right, I'll just... Hi there. I'm here to apply for an overlap on my rent.
Right, okay. No, sorry, we don't deal with that here. You need to go to the housing benefit office.
Oh, you are joking me. I was told to come here.
No, sorry, I think you need to get a form from them.
Oh my God, right. Okay, thank you. Hello, I need some sort of, I need a form of some sort to apply for an overlap on my tenancy. I'm panicking because I've received an eviction notice.
Okay. Have you got your papers and your tenancy agreement?
Yeah. This is classic, isn't it?
Okay, so it says here you moved in October.
No, I moved in at the end of November.
Oh, it says here that you moved in October.
No, they offered me the property in October, but I had to wait for 6 weeks for the repairs to be carried out.
They must have made a mistake on your tenancy agreement. So you're going to have to go back to the housing association to ask them to put the correct dates down. Maybe that's why you've been sent an eviction notice. It says here you owe more than a month's rent.
Oh, wait, I'm confused. Do I still need an overlap? Because I had to stay in the homeless shelter for an extra 2 weeks because there was no gas and electric.
Okay, well, have you got any proof you were in the homeless shelter?
Yeah, just a minute, I've got it here. I can't find it, hang on. I've got it here somewhere, just a minute.
Oh, well, you need to go back to the housing association anyway to get them to alter their mistake. Then you need to nip back to housing options to get the proof that you lived in the homeless shelter.
But I've got proof here, just need a minute, I'll find it.
Oh, sorry, we've got other people waiting. Plus, I think you need to get your tenancy up to date before we can sort that out.
This is a bloody joke, this. I've been backwards and forwards all day. I need to get back. My kids will be finished school soon. We're going to end up homeless again. I can't cope with this.
Just be careful, love. You need to calm down. The security are only over there, and they'll throw you out.
What for? Crying?
No, but you're getting upset, and we've got other people here to think about.
I'm sorry, I'm just overwhelmed. I know it's not your fault. I'm sorry.
Okay, love. Just get yourself together, put all your letters back in your bag, and take them to the Housing Association and explain their mistake to them. Thank you.
Hello, please can you help me? I came here this morning to ask for an overlap form and you sent me to the housing options, but they sent me to the housing benefit. Housing benefit sent me back here because you've got the dates wrong on your tenancy agreement.
When did you move in?
At the end of November.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Well, you'll have to make an appointment to come back tomorrow because we have other people to see. Plus, we need to go through and check everything.
But I need to go back to the housing benefit office today. Plus, I can't find this bloody form now. And I need proof to apply for the overlap payment because I didn't move in on the actual day because there was no gas or electric. Please, can you just change the days? I need to sort this out today. I've got the repair team coming tomorrow. I've not even been shopping yet. There's no food in the house. The kids are going to be back from school yet. And I need to sort this overlap thing out. That's all I wanted to do today. I was told to get an overlap form quickly because I've got another eviction notice. This is all messed up. You've made so many mistakes and
well, this is what happens when you move house. You just have to get on with it. You need to find these things out.
I know I was stressful moving houses. That isn't the problem. There's been so many mistakes, so many cock-ups, too many to mention. I shouldn't be running around all day trying to rectify your mistakes. The kids need me at home. I've been through so much. I'm a single parent and I can't cope with all this extra pressure.
Well, I'm a single parent. I manage okay. This is just life.
Are you actually kidding me? You wouldn't make a comment like that and seen what we've been through. It's taken me all day just to get a form and I still haven't got that. This is one day, one bloody day. I'm frightened we're going to end up homeless again. I can't cope. Just please, just help me.
You're going to have to leave. You can't be kicking off in here.
I'm not kicking off. I'm angry, but I'm not kicking off. I'm asking you to help me.
Well, like you've been advised, you'll have to come back tomorrow.
But I've got a repair team coming tomorrow. Oh my God. And I've got a doctor's appointment. I've waited for 6 weeks for that as well.
Look, the longer you stand here, the less you're getting done. You might as well just go and make another appointment.
Karen, I've just overheard what's happened. Sorry this is going on. Look, take yourself home tonight, run yourself a hot bath, and then tomorrow, I'd ring Citizens Advice and make an appointment with them, get some support from them.
Another appointment. It was Citizens Advice that told me to get the overlap form and they said to come here. I feel like I'm just listening to everybody and nobody is listening to me.
Okay. Before we break for lunch, we're just going to have one more video of one of our commissioners who unfortunately can't be here today. Diana is from Africa originally, and she's dealing with a whole bunch of complicated stuff there today. She's got a meeting about it this morning. It's incredibly complicated, incredibly difficult. She's devastated she's not here. She is a force of nature. She weathers everything that goes on, and you'll hear there's a lot that's gone on. She is the most warm and welcoming person. The minute you meet her, you're in her family, and she treats you as such. She is a delight. She is a true feeder. She walks around with like bubble gum in her pockets and just dishes them out. It's absolutely brilliant. I've actually got one for after the event today. I've been saving it. It's my celebratory bubble gum. She's incredibly generous, and we absolutely adore her. And we're going to watch her video now.
Hi, I am Diana. I'm 48 years old and I live in Droysdon with my two beautiful girls, Monica Blessing, who is 11 years old, and Beth Comfort, who is 9 years old. I didn't experience poverty until I arrived in the UK. Back in Africa, my family had land, we were self sufficient, and we were safe. Had it not been for a devastating family breakdown, I wouldn't be here. I arrived in the UK via Germany in 2004. I had lived in Germany for over 20 years and moved to the UK to run my business, which sadly failed after a while. Meanwhile, I met someone and we had two children. So life got busy in a different way. Sadly, our relationship was not meant to be and split up, meaning that I unexpectedly ended up as a single mom, raising two young girls on my own. Our experience in the UK has not been straightforward. We moved from house to house as renters. Our housing experience has been tough. I moved in my current property in 2011 after waiting for too long for social housing. I was desperate for a bigger space as I was living in one bedroom flat. I was expecting, so I needed space for the baby. I remember getting the house so fast from a landlord who was willing to take DSS and thinking I've hit the jackpot with this one. Unfortunately, within 2 weeks, problems with the house started, and I quickly discovered that my new landlord was a rug landlord. The first thing we discovered was mold, even on the kitchen floor. When we, con- when we contacted the landlord, it took ages to come and fix it, which at first he did. I had high hopes that not decent landlord would let a pregnant woman with a young child live in inappropriate housing circumstances. So I trusted that he would do the right thing. I was still naive then. I'm not now. During this time, as a single mom, I could not work as I had not childcare. So I was relying on benefits. Most of my money would be spent on heating because I was not aware that the house was also improperly insulated, which meant that I was losing heat as soon as I closed the door. I spent so much money on getting the house warm until I realized that there must be a problem. Eventually, we got someone from the council who came and inspected the insulation and said that the house was not properly insulated. The council offered the landlord an energy saving grant. Thankfully, he took it and they fixed the loft, which relieved some of the pressure of my finances. When my youngest daughter was born, I was so excited to have a beautiful baby in my world. The only thing I have ever wanted for my children is safety and clean home for them. I'm so saddened that the reality of our situation has been the exact opposite to this. I have battled for over 5 years to get a house for my children. I have reported my landlord several times as a rug landlord after years of difficulties in what I can only describe as squalid living conditions. When you are living with little financial resources, you have to take what is given to you. Sadly, the reality of poverty is that I have ended up where I never wanted to be. Insecure, insecure housing for me and my two girls, the opposite of what I dreamt. The opposite of what I had dreamed for them. 2 years ago, around Christmas, I had woken up in the middle of the night to water dripping on me from ceiling. Two years ago, around Christmas, I woken up in the middle of the night to water dripping on me from the ceiling and started dripping through the lights as we slept. I was shocked and leaped out of bed and went to turn the lights on. I noticed water dripping through the electricity and went 2 years ago, around Christmas, I woken up in the middle of the night to water dripping on me from the ceiling. Two years ago, around Christmas, I had woken up in the middle of the night, the water dripping on me from ceiling, and started dripping through the lights as we slept. I was shocked and leaped out of bed and went to turn the lights on. I noticed water dripping through the electricity and went downstairs. Water was everywhere and had flooded the living room and the kitchen. I had to bucket water of my house in vain as I couldn't get the water out fast enough. The next day I called the landlord and he came out to inspect. He did not come out or respond. I went to a housing support Ashton and was so sure that they would be ready to get us out of that horrible house. Instead, when I showed the lady a housing the video, she told me that she didn't think it was that bad or that much of a hazard. I was shocked to discover that no one was helping me. I couldn't believe it. How can it be okay for us to live in conditions like this modern day Britain? It is so shocking to me. If I could, I'll be renting elsewhere. However, in the past few years in Greater Manchester, renting has gotten more and more expensive, and benefits have not risen to catch up. When you are dependent on benefits and needing to rent privately, so little choice is available to you because there is only so much that housing would contribute towards your house. So we have been stuck in an adequate house longer than any human being ever should have had to. Not being able to afford to just pack up and leave has just the most frustrating thing. As a mother and my child and my children have asked me why we live the way we live, and I have had no answers for them. As my children have gotten older, I have been able to return to work. I work as a care worker in a nursing home and often do nights so that I can be there for my children during the day. I take them to school in the morning and sleep when they're at school. I wake up to pick them up afterwards, so I'm permanently exhausted, but I would do anything for them. Sadly, I have to rely on their dad to help me out so I can go out to work. And because our relationship is tricky, sometimes he isn't able to help me, and I find myself having to cancel shifts. If I have if I had family nearby, the situation would be so different. Often poverty isn't just material poverty. It can also be lack of family and friends. People who have migrated are more likely to face poverty, not just because of how hard it is materially, but also because we lack the usual structures necessary to build a successful life, such as community. Recently, my mom passed away, and I had to go back to Kenya to bury her. I fell behind with my rent, and when I returned, I was served with Section 21. I was served with the Section 21 notice and given 2 months to vacate my house. Even as I speak to you now, my housing situation is ongoing. We are facing eviction and I am exhausted. We need better system that help people in situations like me. We need people not living in work poverty. We need better homes for our children. I joined the Tameside Poverty Truth Commission because I believe that we need changes. If my story needs to be told so that this can happen, then so be it. It is my hope that as you listen today, you will begin to imagine with me how we can help families like mine and others and all others who are struggling through difficult circumstances in order to build a positive future for their children. Thank you.
We've heard some deeply distressing stories this morning, and we're just going to have a moment just to pause. Just shut your eyes just for 30 seconds, sit and just to take it all in. We are so enormously grateful to our community commissioners for their vulnerability, their honesty, and for sharing so powerfully their stories with us this morning. We are grateful to you all for being here, because being in this room means that you want to do something about poverty. We want to see the lives improved of our commissioners and every person in Tameside living in poverty who has their own story to tell that will be different to the ones told today. We'd like to thank two organisations in particular, because a lot of the stuff that we're dealing with is deeply distressing. And you've heard the mental health toll it was taken on our commissioners, and Infinity Initiatives and Stockport Christian Counselling have both offered and both begun to give, what's the word I'm looking for? Free. Free counselling, free mental health support, which is invaluable to our commissioners, and we're so grateful that we can not only tell them how proud we are, we can actually offer them some real support as they journey through this with us. We're going to have lunch now. We are horribly behind, as expected, so we are going to have to rush lunch. And that's okay. I'm sure you're already hungry, so you can wolf it down. What we're going to do, we're going to leave through this door out the back. The door to the left is going to be open. It is dry, thankfully. Carol ordered dry weather today, so you can thank Carol for that. So we're going to sort of be waiting outside, gathering outside. The next window along is into the cafe. We're going to go in there. You can grab a plate, grab some food. There isn't seating for everybody in the cafe. There is a little bit of seating. You might want to come back in here. You're welcome to sit on the wall outside. Spread yourselves out. Do obviously take your face masks off if you're eating and drinking. Pop them back on if you're not. So we're going to do it in phases. The first people to go out for lunch are going to be our civic and business commissioners, Beatrice and Carol. Carol, do you want to come and just say who they are? They should know who they are, but just
So we've got Ivan Wright. Ivan's here somewhere, yeah. Then we've got Lee Broadstoke. Is Tracy Morris here? I don't know if Tracy's arrived. Yeah. Laura Nielsen, Julie Wilson, Leanne Feely, Oliver Iron, Ian Saxon, Lindsay Shepherd. I don't think Jess has come. Is Jess Williams arrived? I don't know. Jess, yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah. Diane Burke. Diane Burke in the room?
Yes.
Yeah,
Fab.
brilliant. That's all.
Fab. Lovely. If you all go with Beatrice and Carol, they're going to take you out. And then if we can do the back 2 rows first, when they've gone, next 2 rows and so on, just gradually make your way out. If you can try not to hover. If you have dietary requirements, there is vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free, lactose-free, everything is nut-free. There is a table set aside for you all. You'll figure it out. Have a nice lunch and we'll give you a shout when we're ready to come back in.
Have you seen the old man in the closed down market, kicking up the paper with his worn out shoes? In his eyes you see no pride, and held loosely at his side
are still talking. I mean, shocker. So they're being booted out as we speak. They're going to come and join us. And then the second half is really not that long. So we really sorry that we are going to run slightly over. Please, if you need to leave and you know you're going to have to leave early, do try and sit at the back and feel free to sneak out. But we promise we won't be too much longer. And we'll do the next part. Thank you.
There goes my heart beating, 'cause you are the reason I'm losing my sleep. Please come back now.
It's my pleasure now for this part to be able to introduce to you our civic and business commissioners, who you will all meet shortly. So as you know, the Poverty Truth Commission is made up not just of the community commissioners who've done brilliantly today, but also of the civic and business leaders who we have invited to take part in the process. So over the past 10 months, we've had the privilege and the pleasure of working with our grassroots commissioners, but now it's their turn to onboard another lot of commissioners, and they get to do that, and they're so brilliant. So if you're a community commissioner and you're wondering how that's going to go, you're in safe hands. You're in the safest hands there is. They're brilliant at this, and they're going to be great at holding your hand through the next process. And so together, they're going to begin over the next 12 months to work on the complexity of poverty. We've just had some time in the room to chat through some of that, some of the difficulty of trying to come to grips with resolving issues of poverty. We know that we're probably not going to solve poverty in the next 12 months, but we're going to give it a really good go in thinking about creatively how we can resolve stuff that really affects us in Tameside. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to ask the civic and business commissioners who were with us in the room to join me now on stage. It's your turn to be made to feel slightly out of your depth. That's fine, you're among friends. And thank you so much. Please would you welcome them to the stage. And we did put them on the spot, but we didn't feel too badly about it because our community commissioners did really well, didn't they? They did brilliantly. And we have asked them to feedback in a very difficult way, actually, to think about one word and how they would sum up what they've heard and how they've felt throughout this process. So I'm going to invite Tracy, who's going to help me. Oh, no, before Tracy, sorry. I'm going to invite Ivan Wright from Jigsaw Housing to give his personal reflection on today, and then Tracy's going to lead us in the Commissioner's reflection. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to start by saying just how powerful it was hearing those stories. And I think all of us, when we got in the room, were really kind of impacted by everything that each of you said, certainly the bravery that you've shown to say what you've said and tell your story. But it was a hard listen, but it should be a hard listen, because that's what everyone needs to know, that's the reality of living in poverty. And I think because it's difficult for us to hear, because obviously we all work for organisations, we're all individuals as well, trying to do our best that we can do. But we recognise that we've got responsibility out there for the end result and the experience that everyone gets. So I think throughout the room, I'll look at some of the keywords now, there was lots of frustration, lots of kind of, yes, we've been in. And I think there's obviously a lack of resources out there, public funding cuts and everything else, and there's lots of initiatives that are tried and brought in, and we try to improve on what we're doing. Undoubtedly, there is lots and lots of good work going on out there. There's lots of charities, and there's lots of organisations that stood behind me here that are doing amazing work. But it's uncomfortable to hear that not everyone's captured in that good work. So I think for all of us, we kind of, on a positive note, I think the right people are in the room. We're all very passionate about what we do. And with your help, I think we could really identify ways of improving things. And I think it's a great concept, it's a great idea. So my word is opportunity, but I'll pass on to you.
So just hello everybody, I'm Tracy from Children's Services, if you don't know me. It's been really powerful today, and I think that we've all written down some sort of little snapshots of what it made us feel like. So we've got opportunity, we've got inspired, we've got empowered, we've got a threshold, so I'm taking it that's the start of something. We've got together, I'm sorry, I'm thankful and I'm hopeful. We're looking at feeling moved and overwhelmed, listening and learning and changing, inspired and proud, and also challenged and impacted and frustrated, empowered, inspired and moved. And those were just some of the sort of complex emotions that we all felt today. But I think I just want to end on my comment, which is I felt all those things as well, but I think this is the start of something absolutely great. It's the start of a journey, and if we all work together, we're going to make a real difference to everybody's lives, and I think it's really important. And I just want to thank everybody who's been here today, and for everybody who's shared their stories, because quite frankly, you're inspirational. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Ivan, and Tracy, thank you for that. Now, we're now going to invite your counterparts over the next 12 months to join you. Not all of our commissioners are here today. We have Kaz, who's not well, and we've got Diana, who's not here because she's in the middle of a court case. So we want to invite you guys to come and join these guys on stage. And we're going to take the opportunity to take a picture together because these guys are about to embark on a journey over the next 12 months. And we want you here as witnesses, as people who know that we've done this publicly on purpose, so that this is a public process, so that you can be part of this process. Please do cheer them on. This is not an easy thing to do. It is not easy to put aside your title and decide to work in this way. It's quite difficult, we know that, but we want you to cheer them on. So if you see them and you work with them, ask them, how are you doing? How is it going? But also, we want you to be in it with us and hold them accountable so that we can really get to grips with this process, because it is important that we begin to wrestle with the complexity of poverty in Tameside. So I'm going to invite the community grassroots commissioners to also come on stage, and we're going to take a picture, and then I'm going to ask you all to sit down because we're running out of time. Wow, brilliant. So, it's my pleasure to be able to welcome in a short while the leader of the council, Brenda Warrington, who actually, she's been an incredible champion of the Poverty Truth Commission from the very beginning. Brenda, I remember coming to your office a little over 3 years ago and having a conversation about this and about what we could do in Tameside. And I remember your encouragement and how incredibly encouraging you were about the importance and the necessity of continuing to fight austerity and to challenge the issues of poverty in Tameside. And I know that you are committed to that, and you've shown that commitment throughout so far your term, and we are so incredibly proud to have a leader like you in Tameside. And thank you so much for being such a champion. Now, it is my absolute pleasure to be able to present to you and to welcome Brenda to speak to you now. Thank you, Brenda.
Well, thank you, Beatrice. I do remember that meeting, and as you say, you know, we were all really fired up, weren't we? And it's just a shame that COVID got in the way, but nevertheless, we don't give up, do we? We carry on, we carry on. And can I thank you, and thank everyone here, for the invitation to speak today. I think this is an event that will mark the beginning of what I intend to be a trusting, a lasting, and a productive relationship in Tameside. And no matter who we are, no matter who we represent, it's absolutely clear to me that we're all united by a common belief. And that belief is that poverty in Tameside is a crisis. It's a crisis that we need to redouble our efforts to address. And frankly, the time is right now to think and to act radically. And so, speaking for the organisation that I'm representing here today, Tameside Council, there can be absolutely no doubt that the coronavirus pandemic has forced us to look at poverty, both locally and nationally, with a renewed sense of urgency. And back in the days, before anyone had ever heard of COVID-19 or social distancing or lockdown, it was clear that a number of trends, including but certainly not limited to the use of food banks, to homelessness and to mental health problems, were increasing in both Tameside and much further afield as well. Now, coronavirus has laid these economic and these social fractures very bare for all of us to see. And even though the virus may not discriminate, the impact has been anything but equal. And I think, Karen, it was you, where's Karen? It was you that said, we may all be weathering the same storm, but we're definitely in different boats. And isn't that just so true? That is, you know, it sort of lodged with me, that phrase, and I think I'll use that if I may. But all of the data and the accounts of our frontline services has shown that it's those who suffered from the worst symptoms of poverty, from precarious employment to substandard housing to pre-existing health conditions, who have endured the worst of the infections, the severe complications and the deaths, sadly, that came along with COVID. And I think, I'm sure everyone here, like me, has witnessed the very, very real accounts, the stories that we've heard of, you know, if there was ever a doubt, which there wasn't, but if there ever was, we know the impact that that pandemic has had, but on pre-existing conditions. And so we cannot any longer continue to ignore that. And poverty does have a cost. That cost is measured in human lives. And it's not just lives that are cut short, but it's lives that are blighted by the loss of opportunity, the loss of hope, the despair that it brings, that we've heard today. We've heard the despair that people have suffered and had to endure, and it really is not fair. It's not fair, is it? So as we take our first steps into a world after coronavirus, fingers crossed we hope, I actually do think that we have a cause both for concern but also for optimism. On the one hand, it appears that many of the challenges that we face in eliminating poverty are now more difficult to surmount than ever. We're confronted on an almost daily basis with those newspaper headlines about a new cost of living crisis exacerbated by inflation, disruption to supply chains, government decisions such as the cut to universal credit, which again, I think it was Fran, wasn't it, that mentioned the cut to universal credit and the impact on family incomes and how difficult it is to lose overnight £80 a month. It really is just so absolutely dreadful. And it was only last month that the influential think tank, the Resolution Foundation, warned that British households could be up to £1,000 a year worse off. And that starts immediately. And that again, it's just not fair. It's unsustainable. But on the other hand, our collective response to the pandemic has actually been built upon a wave of grassroots solidarity, mobilisation that's been unprecedented in the modern era. Local communities and organisations supported by the public, private and voluntary organisations, and I don't know if Liz is still here, but thank you for all the work that the voluntary organisations do as well. They've been amazing. Many of you are represented in this room today. You all came together and you offered services and assistance to those fellow residents, people that were in crisis and in difficulties. And frankly, you know, you did it without any thought for yourselves. You did it because it was the right thing to do. And again, you know, we do thank you for that. We've all tried to do our little bit, and the more that we all try to do a little bit, the bigger impact it's going to have in helping people. And the obstacles that we face, they may seem higher, they may be more numerous, but if we continue to work on these new relationships that we have actually strengthened and built through COVID, if there's anything that could have, you know, come out of COVID that could be said to be okay, it's that we have built a new way of doing things, a new way of looking at things. We've built those relationships, and I believe that we have many, many more tools than ever with which to meet the obstacles that we know are there. We know they're in front of us. So, you know, we just face them with a reality that we can overcome, quite frankly. And I think it's been amazing to see the spirit of collective and participatory action that's been in full bloom here today. It's really, you know, it's heartwarming, it really is. And like most of you here, I fully subscribe to the guiding principle of the Poverty Truth Commission. And that is that only by understanding the everyday reality of poverty in Tameside, that we can begin to create effective and lasting solutions, both within our own organisations and across the borough as a whole. Today's launch event has been the beginning of this work, and I think I speak for everyone here when I say that the stories we've heard over the past short few hours have been honest, they've been thought-provoking, they've been difficult to hear in some cases, but they have been stories that we needed to hear, needed to listen to, needed to be aware of, because again, sadly, people are oblivious to the plight. It's not that they don't care, it's not that they don't want to help, they just don't know, they're oblivious. And we have to make sure that people are told. And, you know, they're asked for help as well, because again, people are very ready to help if they're asked, aren't they? I'm sure many people here, you know, just needed to be asked. And so again, it's something that we can do. And I do believe that there were moments where I've faced the realisation that as leader of Tameside Council, our organisation will need to start doing things differently, very differently, in order to see a real impact. And I know that here today we have some very senior officers of the council, we have some very senior executive members of the council that are hearing this, that are listening to this, some of them part of the commission that you've set up, Beatrice. And I know the people that I know are here, I know will do the right thing. I know that they'll do the right kind of work. And we will start to do things differently. Simon and I were talking just during the break now about a couple of areas that we know we can address very quickly, very easily, and it should and will help and make an impact on people that need that help. I do hope that what we've seen and heard today will be the beginning of a shared journey towards integrating an awareness of poverty into everything that we do, and provide those foundations upon which we'll build collective solutions. So my intention is, and I'm looking at my chief executive sat there, that we seriously address as a matter of urgency the services that the council offers to people in distress. We must make it easier, much easier, for people to get the support and the advice that they need, not making it harder, with the script that, people put before us. But I do believe that that was very real. It happens to people every day. And I do believe that if people working in these organisations, if they are not prepared to offer help, to offer assistance, then frankly, they're in the wrong job, as far as I'm concerned. I do want to thank each of the commissioners for sharing, and I think I'm hoping I've got the names right here. Fran, who gave us a real insight to her difficulties with homelessness and other difficulties. Ed, your story, which I think stemmed from domestic abuse and, again, difficult situations with the family. Helen, you're there with severe difficulties that you did not get the right help for at the right time. I'm sorry about that. I really am sorry about that. But let's hope that things can and does change very quickly. Anthony's there, I think. Again, an unemployment situation that drove Anthony into a situation of crisis. And Christopher being made redundant at an age that was too young to be, retired. And, sometimes people say too old to find another job, which is rubbish, by the way. A lot of older workers are absolutely brilliant. I know that. But again, it's just demonstrating how people can so easily, through no fault of their own, find themselves in these situations. And, God forbid, it could happen to any one of us. It really could, couldn't it? And Karen, of course, your description, Karen, of the poor childhood, the help that your parents didn't get in the early years that impacted on you, and of course your experiences. But you have an amazing family, so I think you can be extremely proud of that. Absolutely. Diana, I know Diana's not here today, but again, story of a woman desperately trying to look after those two children. And I just cannot believe that she was told, showing people a video of water pouring through a ceiling and all the electrics and things. How can anyone say it doesn't look too bad to me? I'm no builder, I'm no electrician, but I'm sure I'd know it was very, very hazardous anyway. But again, what we need to do, and funnily enough, this is something that we're already doing. I'll be quite frank with you. It's something that we've highlighted not long ago. We will be making sure that we deal with these rogue landlords that do not provide homes that are fit for purpose. We will be dealing with them, and I'm looking again at a very senior officer over there who is nodding his head. He's nodding his head, I know that. But it is something that we will be getting on with. We've started to, I have to say that. So hopefully people won't have quite those kind of situations again. I just can't believe that people are expected to live in those kind of conditions. It really is not fair. So what we're saying is poverty is not a natural, it's not inevitable, it's not a consequence of life that we have to accept. It's created by decisions of governments and societies. That's what poverty is. But it can be overcome if we can choose to make those different decisions. That's what we have to do. And as we leave here today, I want us all to pledge to become leaders of that change. Let's all say, we want change, we will make sure we join the fight, and we will lead it. Together we can share expertise, we can find our individual and our collective voices. Together we can build each other's confidence to realise that not only is a better way possible, but that it does exist, and it exists within our grasp. Together we can begin to fulfil the promise of a brighter and a fairer future for everyone, and that is what we must determine to do. So can I thank Hannah, Beatrice, Tom particularly for today's launch. It's been absolutely brilliant, certainly made an impact on me. Thank the commissioners for all of the work that they're doing, certainly the ones that I can give a load of earache to anyway. But thanks everyone, and thank you. I've thought it was very good. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brenda. That was absolutely brilliant. And we are really awaiting the work that's about to be undertaken. I love the energy in this room. It's fantastic. Thank you. So we know that we are over time, and we really deeply apologize for that. So we're going to close. We're not very far off from finishing now, and we hope you've been inspired, uplifted, empowered to see change happen. And so what I would like to do, though, before we go, is that we wouldn't be here without the support of some very, very important people. And we know that the Poverty Truth Commission in Tameside certainly has been put together by the willingness of various organizations and various people who have helped us to put this together. And so we would love to honor them now. We know that what they did in the background, they did very willingly behind the scenes, and yet we know that they've given their time, their expertise, their wisdom. And so the startup group that helped to put this together, we'd love to honor you. So I would like to ask Dawn from Action Together to come and join me. And we've got some flowers for these guys that we just want to give, and then we're going to thank the commissioners and close. We would also love, stay here please, we'd also love Stuart and Kirsty Gosling. Please come and join us if that's okay. Or it's just Kirsty now. Thanks. That's okay, Stuart had to go. So Kirsty is from New Life Church. Denise Hayes, if she's here, from Longdendale Food Bank. I don't think she's here today, but it's okay, she also was part of it. Is Michelle Shields, is she still here? Michelle, are you here? Michelle Shields from Onwards Housing. Sue Cox from Jigsaw Housing. Debs Fiddler, who's not here, but she's from Silver Cord. Helen Fiddler from Hyde Youth Project. Anna Whitfield from the Nazarene Theological College. And last but not least, Stephen Morley from Church of the Nazarene in Ashton. We would also like to take this opportunity to thank our funders who have given financially to this work. And among these guys, Jigsaw Housing Foundation also gave to the work, so did Onwards Housing, as did Seedbed, the Joseph Rowntree Foundation, Tameside CCG, and Tameside Council. We just want to thank you so much for putting all this together. Thank you. That's absolutely fine. On behalf of the Greater Manchester Poverty Action, the facilitation team, we would love to thank you for all of the time that you have given in putting this together. We wouldn't be here without you. Thank you so much. Would you give them another round of applause? Thank you. Oh, and last but not least, and I can see that they're up to no good right now.
Shift your bum. We're nicking. Just come back here 1 minute. Sorry about that. We're nicking the mic. Where are we? Right, that's yeah. Right, there we go. This side. We'd like to say some thank yous because none of this would have been possible without a few special people. So can Lizzie? What's that one? That one.
Thank you, Lizzie.
Beatrice. And Hannah. I won't say this bit. Oh, one job. Thank you so much for all your hard work, support and encouragement. And I'm glad I didn't cry this time.
I know. Yeah, just for anyone coming up here, there's now a slipping hazard. I'm so sorry about that.
It's very unusual that I'm put on the spot, but that just happened. Thank you guys so much. I don't know what to do. I can say so much about these guys. I've spent the majority of the last year and a half with them, and they are as inspirational as they sound, and they're as resilient as they've come across, and they're as powerful as their stories have shared today. And to walk with them is a privilege. And we thought that for your courage today, and for your resilience and the power in your stories that you've shown, there is absolutely no amount of gratitude that we can show to convey that. But we want to give you a gift, and the only gift that we could think of was just to go and have some fun. It's been a really hard few months. Go and have some fun. So we've got you some gifts, and we thought we would give you the gift of going to the cinema with a friend. And so we've bought you some gift boxes with all of the trimmings, all the popcorn, all the drinks. So hopefully, as Christmas is coming and it's getting darker outside, that's a great thing to go and do. Go and have fun with a friend. There's 2 tickets, not just one, so you can take the person you like the most. If you have 4 children, I can't help you. So we'd love to give you this, and we'd love for you to, after the hardship of putting this together and sharing your stories with us, for you to just go and relax and have some fun. And it's a small, small token of our gratitude. And we know that the next 12 months are going to be incredibly key. But for now, please, would you accept this from us? So would you come here and get your gifts? And lastly, we would like to end today by sharing with you what, as a commission, the commissioners have put together. They put together a poem to convey some of what you've heard today. And I'm going to read it on their behalf. These aren't my words, these are their words. And The poem is entitled, What If? Poverty is a trap that grips with unimaginable force. Some are snared at birth, and others are caught by total surprise. What if I had been born into a different life, with food on the table and new shoes at the start of each school year? What if sickness hadn't caused my life-changing symptoms? Would poverty still be my story? Poverty is a cruel game of snakes and ladders. Just as I've reached the top, a better place, a snake arrives, a benefit cut, a job loss, a landlord selling up, a change of circumstances or a change in policy. What if it wasn't the ladders that were taken away by the snake slashed instead? What if the punishment of poverty wasn't met with the punishment of disapproval or unpredictability or of just being a number? Would poverty still be my story? Poverty is a plague that brings judgment and ridicule. It is a punishment for a life not chosen by its owner. What if everyone saw me for what I really am? Someone heavily burdened by a series of unfortunate events and systemic failures. What if they saw too my ability to overcome, my determination and the battles that I've managed to win against the odds? Would poverty still be my story? And yet, even though poverty is my story, I am strong and resilient and creative. I have sought out the hidden help I didn't know existed. I have fought for my house, for my education, and for others. I love bravely and fiercely. I can find joy in art and music and nature and people. I am decent and caring and kind. But still the dark, heavy, thick cloud of poverty looms, and I'm consumed by accessing the basic needs that everyone should have. I'm overwhelmed and I am weary from riding this roller coaster with its relentless ups and downs and never stops. Poverty is my story. It's our story. But these books are not finished. What if we join forces? What if we see the best in one another? What if we listen deeply? What if we learn and grow and think together? What if together we write a plot twist and begin to see my story, our stories, and those of many others begin to change? Thank you.
Thank you all for joining us today. We have now finished. The whole thing today has been videoed. If you would like a copy of that video, if you want to watch it again, if you want to share it with anyone you think might benefit from watching it, then please just get in touch with me. We will also be sending out a survey. We'd just love a little bit of feedback about today and about your experience with the Poverty Truth Commission so far. So you can expect an email from me later today. If we can help with anything, if you need any information about anything, please get in touch. It has been a pleasure to be with you all today and to share with you all today, and we wish you a safe journey home.